Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of March 4th through the 10th of 2024. All right, so quite a bit going on this week in terms of the things going on astrologically. We do have a new moon at the end of the week on Sunday, and so as we do approach Sunday, it is good to finalize things for this lunar month, tie up loose ends, and then especially over the weekend, noticing that energy dying down and getting ready for those new beginnings around the corner. Now, what's also going on this week are quite a few sign changes. So we have Mercury going into Pisces on Monday. This is going to add some water energy to the mix, where our minds are going into the ethers, and so spiritual, intuitive, imaginative energy is starting to increase. Mercury will pass over Neptune a little bit later in the week, adding to that. Then on Friday, Venus will be going into Aquarius, so that's going to be still involving this progressive, more future-oriented energy that we've had, but here maybe enjoying some of that in our relationships, maybe connecting with friends and group kind of stuff sometimes, but more of that visionary, innovative energy coming through in our enjoyments and oftentimes our relationships. The sun will be passing into Neptune as well, adding to that watery energy on Saturday. And perhaps the most important aspect this week is that Mars will be squaring Uranus over the weekend. So this will be good for finding some balance with the side of ourselves that may want to make some extreme actions, maybe feeling a bit impulsive, a bit rash, and finding the constructive way of implementing our actions, expressing our needs, pursuing things in life that then can be very constructive with that square. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, March 4th. And as you can see, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology, which unfortunately no longer uses the visible sky. So if you are new to this channel, definitely check out the link down below for more information on what we call true sidereal astrology. All right, so like I said, there is quite a bit going on this week astrologically. Now, do know that it is an ending week of the lunar month, so it does mean that the energies are dying down as we do approach the Sunday's new moon, of course. And with these shifts into Pisces, there is definitely that watery energy going into the mix. So when I say a lot going on, I really just mean a lot in terms of how we can utilize the energy and a lot of different parts of life or parts of ourselves that are involved. And because we do have these sign changes, 3 planets changing sign this week, it can also mean that it's a week where things are shifting, things are changing, especially in our perspective of things. So just a little bit of a recap here where everything is coming into the week. We have the Sun and Mercury in Aquarius, finishing that transit this week, which has been about that more, again, visionary and forward-thinking side of ourselves. So it's still good to do this, I would say still all week, because even though Mercury and the Sun are leaving Aquarius, like I said, Venus is entering on Friday, and so it'll still keep that continuation of that visionary energy. But coming into the week, yes, it's very good to still have that foresight, think about the future, cultivate aspirations. And then in collective matters, it's good to focus on the world, the future, and maybe even some community or collaborative kinds of things can be great. So with that going on, we will still have Capricorn energy all week. Mars will still be here all week, even when Venus leaves. So Capricorn's been helping us really cultivate more of our long-term view of matters. And with Mars, it's particularly about taking the one step at a time, patient, disciplined, responsible approach towards the things that we do want to either accomplish or put some of that responsibility into. And it's still great to do that, particularly until Saturday while Venus is here, seeing as we have been the value and the way of connecting this way, maybe in our relationships or with others in a more responsible, maybe patient and disciplined sort of way, which is usually quite supportive when Venus and Mars are in that constellation. Okay, so definitely still this air and earth theme that we've had already, but again, shifting into the water of Pisces, which really happens right at the beginning of the week. Right off the bat, for most of us, the later part of Monday, Mercury will start to get closer to Pisces. And so our minds are going into the ethers. And so it is great to really utilize that. It's a good time to connect with our soul, to connect with our intuition, to connect with our more imaginative and abstract mind. And it's not the easiest placement, of course, for Mercury, because Mercury is the more practical side of our mind that does want to have very concrete and conceptual understanding of things. But Pisces is really about dissolving that. And so here it's being okay with going with the flow a little bit in regards to life and maybe not having all the answers. Maybe some uncertainty and stuff can come in if we are trying to figure things out too much. So it is good to align our minds with the more spiritual path, with our soul, let's say. And in this way, then it's a great transit, of course. These are times where, again, having strong intuition can give us really important insights on things. A strong abstract mind can give us very good imagination and creative capabilities. All this stuff, of course, but as you can see, working with it in the more receptive, intuitive, and even spiritual sort of way that I think is always great when involving Pisces, but especially a Mercury in Pisces, which might be a little more difficult to do so. Now, as these planets go into Pisces, again, Mercury and then the Sun later this week, they will be sextiling Uranus. So just on a minor note, do know that even though we've had Venus and Mars square Uranus, so last weekend, Venus was square Uranus, and this can be sometimes a feeling of some of that rashness and impulsivity we'll talk about a little bit with Mars. But it's nice to see that Mercury is in harmony to the Sun and Mercury as they transition into Pisces. So do know that it is a great week for having that, again, innovation, forward thinking, progressiveness with things, because of Mercury's nice placement to particularly the Mercury and Uranus's placement sextiling Mercury and the Sun there. And even with the square to Uranus from Mars, which we'll talk about, that can be, of course, very constructive too. So a lot of Uranus energy this week. It's very much like the Aquarian energy, which is that visionary thinking outside the box, challenging the status quo, listening to our excitement, having more freedom in our life, healthy change. This is all very much in the sky with all these aspects to Uranus. All right, the moon will be finishing up a fucus on Monday, and so the moon passing over the galactic center on Monday does lead to this usually feeling transformed from probably the weekend. So give it until probably at least late Monday, starting to feel a little bit of that free-spirited energy of Sagittarius, the post-transformation. And maybe some things, maybe deeper or healing early Monday that then lead to that transformative post-transformation, free-spirited energy of Sag. So the moon will be in Sag all the way through Wednesday, Monday through Wednesday. And so great time to be listening to a little bit of that fire, a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of open-mindedness and adventurousness can go a long ways with that. On a minor note, on Wednesday, Mars will be sextiling up to Chiron. It does suggest that it is a good week for assertiveness and taking action. It is a major theme this week with Mars in two aspects. But here around Wednesday, just noticing that anything we do that is assertive, that is taking action, that is initiating in some way, can just be a bit healing and therapeutic. Okay, so anything involving confidence and any of that, as we do it, it can be quite healing. It's just an opening for that. It's nothing major, but it's worth mentioning as we don't have too many aspects going on this middle part of the week. Most of the stuff going on is over the weekend here. Now, as we do get into Thursday, the moon will be going into Capricorn, which is finishing up a lot of that, again, Capricorn energy from really the previous, and you could argue the last two lunar cycles here, which has been about, again, the long-term view. So I think both Thursday and Friday, a little bit of discipline can be great, a little bit of responsibility, a little bit of patience, right? Activating that Venus and Mars as well. But the main themes over the weekend here is that, first of all, that Mercury will be passing over Neptune on Friday in Pisces, adding to that water energy. This usually signifies a new beginning to how we're thinking about things in the context of our soul, in the context of spirituality, intuition, etc., all that we talked about. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces and in Pisces. So it's really adding to that water energy. But here with the conjunction, there could be some new beginnings. So I think anything around Friday that is an intention you may want to set with cultivating more of that soul-fulfilling energy, more of that receptive energy in your life. I think it's great to do that with the conjunction, and we could, in fact, notice some new things starting to emerge, coming out of an almost serendipitous or spiritual void that can arise in our life that can come from this particular type of combination here. All right, but using the conjunction constructively like that in terms of a new beginning to cultivate that intuitive spiritual side of ourselves, I think is a great way of working with that. Now, Friday is also the time that Venus gets closer to Aquarius. And so that transition, again, just continuing some of that visionary and progressive energy. In this context, seeing the value of it, enjoying it, and connecting in our relationships in that way. So it's a great time to mix up what we're enjoying, what we're valuing, challenging our own status quo, doing unique and different things in terms of our enjoyments, and also in our relationships, maybe connecting with those we normally wouldn't connect with, maybe challenging our own status quo there with relationships, getting into some of that visionary, challenging the status quo type of energy there with both our values and relationships. So that's going on, and that could maybe ease up a little bit of that more long-term Capricorn energy, as both Venus and the Sun will have left there by Saturday, and really just leaving Mars there, which, isn't as much as having both Mars and Venus there like we've had. Now on Saturday, we do have the Sun starting to go into Pisces, getting closer to Pisces, and so this is adding to that watery energy, okay? And then, of course, we're having that new moon on Sunday. So all weekend, it's important to recognize that we are closing out the lunar cycle, completing things, the energies are dying down, and getting ready for that reset. And again, adding to the Pisces, the receptive side. Now, it is going to be a new moon right in between Aquarius and Pisces, so there still is a little bit of that innovative energy, of course, like we've been saying, but it is really starting the Pisces season for the year, and so I think that's important as well. So any new beginnings, any intentions you want to set about cultivating both your future aspirations and, let's say, your soul's need, this is really where Aquarius and Pisces come together, the sort of aspiration and soul guidance, soul needs. Anything on that level, I think is fantastic. No aspects with it other than the conjunctions that we've talked about. So we have the conjunctions with Neptune. The Sun will pass over Neptune next week, but the new moon is conjunct Neptune. Again, just really adding to that Pisces energy. The new moon will still be somewhat close to Saturn. So there is still that, again, long-term view energy involved with it, but no major squares with the new moon or oppositions or anything like that. That would be adding something from another part of the zodiac here. It's all very much concentrated in these areas that we've been talking about. Now, as we do approach that new moon, we do have an important aspect this week. Mars, the planet of that fire and drive, in a square up to erratic and kind of spontaneous Uranus. So this can be, collectively a bit uncomfortable because Uranus, again, being quite unexpected and not very stable of an energy, right? Mars, it can really challenge that Mars, and so it can sometimes translate into a wanting to make some impulsive, rash, actions, or independence, or assertiveness, or directness, and so it is good to find the healthy and constructive ways of doing that. If you're feeling any bit of that impulsiveness or bottlenecking kind of energy that Uranus squares can sometimes bring, especially with Mars like this. So good to be constructive. See that there is, of course, healthy change. I think it's always good with squares to Uranus to challenge our own status quo, getting outside of our own comfort zone, in this case, in regards to what we want, how we're pursuing things, how we're taking initiative with things in our life. And that way, the attention is on us growing and it's more personal development, and then it can be very constructive. So anything that is outside of our status quo, it is something that is a little uncomfortable, but we know it's very constructive for our health, really our freedom and our change and our excitement, and that part that does want to break free and, make some changes or have some, new and different experiences in our life. So listening to that true self, listening to that excitement, but in a way that is constructive. And I think it will be a very constructive weekend for all things that are aligned towards that kind of energy, towards what we want, and also towards, let's say, healthy change and freedom in our life that Uranus calls us for. All right, and then like we said, it's nice to see the sun sextiling Uranus with that. It's really going to take the backdrop to a lot of this, but it's nice to see that there's a little bit of harmony there with the innovation. All right, and then, Sunday's the new moon, as we said, and minor note, Mercury will be sextiling Pluto, so we might get a bit of a deeper mind, maybe some depth in our communications, at least available. But just to keep this all very simple, let's do a recap. Essentially what we've got this week is a new moon at the very end of the week. And so as we approach it, letting the energies die down, completing, tying up loose ends, doing some of that reset, some of that clearing over the weekend in order to make space for the new beginnings and the new energy of the lunar month, which slowly start to come out of Sunday onwards. The new moon will be in between Pisces and Aquarius, and so it really is the time when we get to the weekend that is a combination between, in this case, air and water. Some of that innovative, forward-thinking energy, but also the receptive and intuitive and soul-guided energy, right? And I think where these two come together is in the area of what you might call soul aspirations. It's a bit future with Aquarius, but it's also soul and spiritually oriented, which is Pisces. And so anything on that level, I think, is fantastic. And really the other thing that I think is noteworthy, to keep it simple though, is the sign changes, right? So we've got Mercury going into that watery energy right at the beginning of the week, where our minds are going into the ethers. We've got the sun, of course, doing that over the weekend. But Venus going into Aquarius, really not adding anything new, but Friday perhaps noticing just a little bit of that enjoyment and value of that more innovative and progressive energy. And also not only the value of enjoying that, but in our relationships as well. And then lastly, I would say it's just a good weekend to constructively implement some of that excitement, some of that side of ourselves that wants some change, wants some excitement, wants to challenge things a little bit, in doing that constructively. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you haven't yet gotten your True Sidereal report, there is a link down below for that. You type in your birth details, you can look at the report, it's absolutely free. I've also somewhat recently added the sky to the natal chart calculator, the report calculator of the link down below. So if you want to see exactly where all the planets were when you were born, the link down below will show you that, along with the report that you can see there as well. All right, so everyone, thank you again for all of your support, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.